Okay, what's up, everybody? I am back with a new video. I know it's been a long time since I started making YouTube videos, and I want to say I'm back. I'm gonna be trying to make more videos for you guys. It's been a lot currently, but we're coming back. We're gonna be creating more content, probably more informational, maybe some funny videos more. Just because that's kind of what I'm into. But for right now, we gotta talk about this new patch because there's just some things nobody is talking about. Yes, we all know how the fan is gonna be a very interesting addition to the game. There's definitely some new mechanics that are going to be in, and let's just say swap combos for the win. I guess that's what the devs want. So just easy fan uppercuts into greatsword. That's basically what our life is now. And easy left click uppercuts with the dagger, as if that wasn't enough. But that's not what this video is about. There's actually a ton of people that have made that video, and I actually recommend you watch them. And they have really good gameplay, and it's actually pretty fun to watch them. So just type it in. There's a ton of creators, and I think all of them do a really good job of showing that. I want to talk more about something that's not being talked about, which is the Jades. The Jades and the new meta changes that are going to come along with it. Now, you guys can have your own opinions about it. Clearly, this is just my opinion. I've played solos and trios for a very long time. And, well, I guess trios less as much, but I've been trying to get competitive a lot. So I'm just going to tell you what I think is going to be going on with these Jades and why. Really, this was a really cool move by the devs to try and diversify and even out the playing field of RNG, because I know that in meta for trios, that was really something teams had to take into consideration. But I'll go way more into that during the video. But please just keep an open mind and let me know if you have any differing opinions or if you know anything more about the Jades that are going to be coming in this next patch for the new season 10. Okay, so the first thing we gotta talk about is why did the devs make this move? Why did they feel it was necessary to kind of change the way Jades work as a whole instead of just being something you pick up through a trove or buy through a station? Why are there now levels and quests to them? Why are there consumables to these Jades? And if you haven't heard about the news already, yes, now some Jades are consumables, and this is gonna change everything a lot, mostly because now for some Jades, you might have wanted the effects forever, but they felt that wasn't necessary for them. So what happens when you use this now is, for example, for Starfall, you get 3 consumables, and you can see Starfall reduces usage by 1. One more time, so now I only have 1 left. Now for my last one, you can see it changes back into a melee Jade. So it's not like a consumable where you completely get rid of the Jade, which is really good because who the heck wants to pay like 2,000, 2,500 coins, depending who you are, on your build on a Jade that's just gonna go away later, you know? You might as well just pay for like armor powder. So the reason they wanted to do this is because there's a lot of, I don't know if you've noticed if you've been playing the game for a long time, but there are some Jades that people will not pick up. There's a lot of reasons why sometimes the benefits you get for them just really aren't worth it. For example, Starfall, for one, it's a situational Jade, you know? Like sometimes it works, sometimes it can really help, especially in trios if you're trying to lock somebody down in one place. But if somebody's holding blue, it actually ends up kind of backfiring because if they hold blue, they can just release a focus attack against you sometimes. So it's not the best. And also, it used to be a health Jade. So because of that, people are like, okay, health is kind of also a situational Jade you would use in general for stats. Like you're not going to use it unless you're a support character, you're monk, someone who scales off of health like Karumi. For all these reasons, people are going to kind of shy away from it. So what they decided to do is first, we can't just make every stat Jade or every ability Jade be a melee Jade. Just because there wouldn't be any interest in the game, and it would be all kind of monotonous. At least that's what I'm thinking. And then instead they would make them consumables, so now you can still have that effect of being able to get these new stats and reducing the amount of Jades that are being overlooked because they're probably looking at their pickup rates and they're not very high. So that's what you're getting with, that's the whole premise of why I think the devs did this. I think it's very smart. We'll see what happens with some of them. And the meta, if they need some tuning, I think some of them might need some tuning, and I'll go into that. But ultimately, I think this is a good direction to go to for some of the Jades that require this. Now, in addition, there are 2 new Jades in the game that are going to be Follow the Recall and Explosive Armor. Follow the Recall is going to be an early game Jade. Basically, if you find anything else besides Follow the Recall after Rebirths are gone, you should switch it to that, because this one gives you rare armor and a rare weapon upon rebirth. And without a rebirth, there's no reason to use this. So it's pretty interesting that now there are early game Jades and there are late game Jades, or I guess just Jades that you would rather use instead of an early game Jade. The next one, it is Explosive Armor, which seems like kind of a play on Zippy's Buttable. So this is going to be a pretty strong Jade to have. Basically, if your armor gets chunked at all, you actually get to push the enemy back temporarily to get a reset. So getting TOD'd is no longer as big of an issue, especially if you have this Jade. So you'll see right now, he's gonna hit me. Man gets pushed back far, and I can leave. And then of course that takes one of the consumables away. But yeah, I think that's gonna be a very interesting shakeup in the meta. Okay, so we also have Moral Defiance. Now, at first glance, you might think that Moral Defiance, because it's a consumable, will let you stack like 1, 2, 3, 4, like however many Moral Defiances you happen to get lucky to find to stack it into 1 Jade. But that isn't the case, and I'm actually pretty glad. I mean, if this is the case, I'm pretty glad that this is not the case, which is Moral Defiance will stay as a 1 slot Jade, so you're not going to be able to stack like 2 or 3 Moral Defiances. In fact, for all these consumables, however much they give you, which is usually 2 or 3, that will fill up that entire slot. So you can't even get like for example, if you have explosive armor, you can't get like 10 explosive armors in 1 slot. You kind of have to distribute them according to what they come to you, and I don't think you can add them at all. So if you use them halfway, you drop them, it's only going to have 1 use, and it's going to get picked up again. And this is good, I think, for balancing reasons. Really strong Jades like Moral Defiance that were already like stupid strong when they weren't on Melee Jade. Now they can at least not be too strong to where you can even stack multiple Moral Defiances together. So I think that's very important to note that although they're consumables, it's not like something where you can stack like 20 of them in 1 slot. For example, with armor powders, you can only have 2 per slot. So the same thing should be true here. You can only have 1 Moral Defiance per slot, and then like 2 explosive armors, and so forth and so forth. There's some more consumables I'm going to go over right now, which is the 1, 2, 3 horizontal strike on the nuns, the longsword, the spear, and the dual blades actually have a different effect now where they actually silence the individual, which is a pretty neat addition. In solos it might not mean a lot, but a couple seconds in trios is the difference between life and death, honestly, for most comps. So this is definitely going to be an interesting change. We'll probably increase the pickup rate. Now, we have Katana's Stamina Strike, Daggers with Abyssal Aura, Dual Blades with the Splitter, and Fans new Dual Circle. Jade will give you 100% healing for the damage given, which is pretty cool. For some of these Jades, they actually still have the attack ones in place, and they have different abilities. For example, Blue Moon. It still has the purple attack Jade, but it only works for vertical attacks and lets you and instead of letting you silence an enemy on the 3rd strike, it lets you repeatedly do your 3rd strike just like a regular Blue Moon. Which I should probably mention now, Blue Moon on the consumable does not let you do it multiple times, so that is something to consider, that these are different than their attack counterparts. Although I think this is a good concession, I think that allowing consumables for these abilities may be a bit much in the future. We'll see, but for right now, it seems like they're going this direction, and it will definitely help people incorporate abilities into their playstyles more. Okay, the next Jades we have are Soothing Boon, Poison Splash, Soft Step, and Phantom Step. So those are the basic names you should know them by, but now they're a little different. Soothing Boon is pretty much the same. The only difference is when you complete this quest of damaging enemies, you're going to get an increase to 40% on the likelihood of repair kits and all your other supplies um, not depleting, which is like it's whatever. I don't think it's going to make a huge difference in the wide scheme of things, but it's cool that they added that in just to see if anything would happen. Poison Splash, this one's going to be really funny. So if you finish the quest, which is the same as everything else, it will actually, instead of just releasing the poisonous gas, it also puts the healing debuff like you would for the Viper F3. So this will be really funny to see how many people just get completely nuked or like chemical attacked by this freaking thing. So we'll see how that goes later on. That'll be a really troll Jade to use. I think it is definitely viable, but it'll be funny to like see what kind of montages of people trying to freaking heal, but they won't be able to heal because poison will eat through them. But yeah, it's viable. Definitely better than where it used to be, but not much changes there. Then we have Soft Step and Gecko Foot. I think this is definitely a good. This is why I kind of like these Jades because I mean, we'll see how how wrong I am when the actual live server comes on with this stuff. But combining some of the J's with the low pick rate, I think is actually a really good improvement. Just because these kind of match together. Soft Step and Gecko Foot. Gecko Foot lets you go invisible once you upgrade it. Of course, you have to travel for this one, which is kind of nice. Doesn't really require much on the quest to complete. Just like 500 meters, I believe. And Soft Step lets you move completely silently, and Gecko Foot, lets you climb fast up walls. But the main thing that makes these two so good together is that it lets you turn invisible after a couple seconds. So it's a really good stealth Jade. I think it will definitely at least have a place for solos, or if you're ratting in trios, I think it will actually have a place now, which is cool. Soft Step has always been a pretty good Jade to have, just for being able to detect your enemies in both solos and trios. So yeah, I think people are gonna like that. Ripple Step and Phantom Step. The difference between Ripple and Phantom Step is basically Ripple gives you the Phantom Step invis only on rolling. So if you have like a wave roll, it'll be the same exact troll thing that people used to do with Phantom Step and wave roll, and you won't have to upgrade it with Phantom Step. Of course, hitting for 2500 damage is really not that hard to do, and once you get that, you'll have the full Phantom Step activated. So that people have that to look forward to. Ultimately, I think these health Jades did get at least somewhat of a good rework that will either increase their pickup rate or at least make it so like the RNG is a little more fair. So if you didn't pick up a really good Jade, you'll actually have something that might be of utility to you. So you're not going to leave them everywhere. So on our next segment, we have Warrior's Pace with Greatsword, and all these Jades are kind of an interesting take on what used to be just attack Jades separately. Also, people would use some of these Jades and they'd be pretty powerful, and they kind of not only come from purple attack Jades, but also melee Jades too, like Trigger. And the Assault Smolder actually used to be a gold attack Jade, and what's interesting with the stats now is or at least from what I could tell, all the stats from gold Jades have been reduced down to purple. So they've kind of really gone full ability centric here. But for Warrior's Pace, level 1, it's also a typo. I don't know if they're going to fix that bug completely, but it's supposed to be a horizontal greatsword attack. Will get you, if you hit him 4 times with that, just 4 hits, so you can do a triple charge and where it's gonna give you it. It'll give you Infernal Slash, kind of cool. Erudition Spear Storm. I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I think this is kind of a debuff beyond debuffs here, because first off, Erudition already is not something people like to use often unless the person cannot parry, and Spear Storm isn't really something people care about. So I don't think this is really gonna change anything for Spear. That's just my opinion, and we'll move on. Next one is Trigger and Lockbreaker. Lockbreaker is really cool. It hits so hard, but basically Trigger, you don't lose any Biting Fury on your blocks, and if you hit 2 blocks, it immediately punches the crap out of the person in front of you, like a velocity unfold. And because it goes off of blocks, if you even block once with your trigger, the second one's gonna slap. The only thing here that is still difficult is you can't really direct it. You cannot direct the lock breaker afterwards. So that is something you have to be careful of when this does come out. And I'm sure people will be careful of it. The last one is Assault Smolder. Assault Smolder, like I said, used to be a gold attack jade, but is now a purple health jade. And when you attack, it has the same burn damage, but when you level up, it actually increases the damage your grapple attacks do. It doesn't seem like a lot, but the original attack is 33 and the new one is 42. When you think about it, that's a pretty big difference, but I think that it's not going to get too much to where it's spammy. The main reason they did this, I think, is they were kind of a, how should I say it? Because it was a gold attack jade, and they didn't want to keep it as a cold attack jade, they still wanted the attack buff to be present in a significant way on the Assault Smolder. That's what I'm thinking when they put this on, because it's not that much of a buff. At the same time, they're like, how can we manage it so it stays the same kind of power it had before? So this last segment is going to be about our range jades, and I think that the devs changed this knowing that this was going to create such a big meta shift to where now every team could basically have their own god range setup for trios, and for solos this just makes the entire incentive structure completely different, from weapon swap combos to like being able to integrate ranged weapons into your playstyle. So we're going to go right into it and just show you what I mean exactly. So for crossbow, we have 2 Jade's Venom Tip and Bard Bolts, and then Curative and Healing Bolts for level 1 and level 2. I'm kind of upset that the Venom Tip is no longer an attack Jade, just because for a lot of the characters that use this, like support types, they usually don't need range Jades in general. I'm talking like Temi or Wu Chen, or at least that's not how I play them. So this is good news and bad news, but ultimately Venom Tip combined with Bard Bolt is always a plus, and is going to be very strong in the meta now because of this combination. Then we're going to have Musket. This was probably their most basic, because there's some mechanics that come in later for why I think this is changing the meta, but Musket is pretty straight simple. Just hit the enemy 5 times and you're going to get Slow Shot and Sunwing at the same time. Not much more to say here. I think of course it's going to add value to anything when you're combining Jades, but this is probably the least changing out of all the weapons. Next we have Cannon, which is my favorite. I'm just gonna flat out say it. I think Cannon is definitely they just decided to make Cannon stronger this time. So originally you need like 4 or 5 Jades that have the complete Exodia. Now you only need 3 because they combined Twin Shot, Bound Shell, and Ruptured Gale Orb and Burn, which it used to be Flame Breath. And by the way, these both synergize with each other like nobody's business. So this is gonna be freaking insane when these come out. And a quick note, this is the start of the mechanics, which is like for Cannon, I didn't know if you knew this, but if you hit your target dead on, it actually does two attacks, one directly on the body and one as the surrounding area. So because of this, you actually don't need to hit your enemy 5 times. You could hit them 3 times if you hit at least twice at the direct enemy, which obviously for a cannon like Twin Shot, that's gonna work pretty fast. And each of those projectiles also double again, so you only need to fire it twice with Twin Shot potentially to get your quest done. So legit Twin Shot, 2 shots, you get a Bound Shell. For Ruptured Gale Orb, really big blast radius, can't miss, so you just have to hit that 5 times or 3 times, and you get Flame Breath in addition. Burn damage does not affect it, which there's not really a surprise there, because I think it technically doesn't count as contact. Burn damage is kind of its own status effect. It's not really related to weapons, which is important when considering the next weapons that are involved. But yeah, this is definitely my favorite. Cannon, everyone knows, is already the most broken weapon in the game for at least trios. So like, yeah. I'm speechless, guys. Let's move on. Our next weapon is Pistol, where they combine Quick Charge and Thunder Call together, which those are the only 2 jades other than detonating rounds that they would combine. So there we go. On Quick Charge, to finish the quest for your Thunder Call, you only need to hit the enemy 20 times. Now this is where it gets interesting. Obviously, when you're doing quests like birds or when you're trying to attack boxes, pistol acts as like multiple projectiles at once. Same thing applies here. In fact, you don't even need to charge your weapon, and if you fire it directly dead on, it counts as 5 attacks, so you only need to shoot it 4 times to complete your quest. There's also one other thing here, which is detonating rounds also count as weapon attacks as well. So if you get a full charge, detonating rounds on there, I think that's another 5 in addition. So you really only need to attack the person like twice to get your quest completed if you have detonating rounds. But these are all ifs, ands, and buts. But the point I'm trying to make here is that they're combining jades, and the quests are pretty easy to do, guys. So I don't think this is as much as a nerf as it is just like a really big buff with just people who take initiative to fight more get reap the rewards. So it's less RNG, more rewarding for the players. But I do think maybe some tuning is needed. I don't know. We'll see how people react when it hits everybody. Our final one is bow and arrow, and I think they definitely thought this through a little bit, at least for the bow, because as we know, there's burst arrow, scatter shot, fire arrows, and target lock. They only combined fire arrows and target lock, and the reason that is because if they put a burst arrow there or a scatter shot as well, this would actually make the quest way too easy for the fire arrows and the target lock. Like if they combine fire arrows and scatter shot, it's just an instant W. So I think that they at least tried to make it as balanced as possible for this, even though it's still insanely strong. Like if you get a scatter shot and full charge it at somebody with fire arrows, you're gonna get target lock immediately. If you get burst arrow too, I think that's gonna help as well. Like you could just watch the footage and you can see like exactly how the attack modifiers work with burst arrow and scatter shot. Pretty sure that you only need 1 full charge on the ranged attack of the bow to just instantly get your quest done. So altogether, these are all your ranged weapons, and this isn't even the final Jade yet. The final Jade is what everyone's complaining about, which is the switch Dazzle. But here, last thoughts. I know I've said a lot of positive things about the Jades, but I do want to stress enough that it's going to be a meta shift. Not everyone's going to like it, and there's got to be a lot of tuning to be done here to make sure some of this is not overpowered, especially for trios. So, I mean, I'm optimistic, but I definitely am wary as well. Okay, so the final Jade is it's kind of controversial depending who you're talking to. For the weapon swappers, this is kind of a death sentence, somewhat. Not a death sentence, but I'm over exaggerating for you guys, obviously, because it's a YouTube video. But to be honest, it's pretty strong, which is Switch Dazzle, where if you use Switch Dazzle on somebody and it hits 3 times, then it allows you to get 15% attack damage upon weapon swap from a range to a melee. So you can't go like this, it's not going to work. If you get 2 ranged weapons in here, it also won't work. It has to specifically be either a melee to a ranged weapon, but if you, just give me a second, as here as well, it also works ranged back to melee, which I think is also an interesting thing to note. But it's also pretty easy to get this procced because there are already combos involved with Switch Dazzle that will get you this instantaneously, or you can just space them out to where it'll work later. So for example, if I go here, go like this, it won't do it immediately, but it'll get pretty close. Depending on the height, it might actually work, but this is the one where it's like, oh look, I got my quest immediately, and you don't even have to do anything for it. You can obviously get fancy with it, maybe do a 1-2 juggle, and you'll get it immediately, get back into the 15% attack damage. And this Switch Dazzle will be really good for things like crossbow and bow specifically, because they let you do multiple attacks at once, instead of the other ones, which is a one and done type deal. Now, obviously, like, it seems like such a small change, but the whole thing with how the Jades have been changed is that Attack's been nerfed. All of the attack jades that you've been given, a lot of them have been changed to either melee jades or health jades. It's harder to hit people. The kill time is probably going to be longer by a fair bit. It might not be too noticeable right now, but that's where the devs want it to go. Range jades are getting a bit of a buff, so now people are going to be poking a lot more instead of just going into a straight TOD combo. They even have TOD protections now with the jades, guys. So the fact that this switch dazzle is here, combined with the very few attack jades we have left, like Juggernaut and such, it makes it a strong jade to have. And they're switching up to meta for solo specifically instead of being a weapon swapper. Instead of that, just going straight here and double charging with your attack jade. Like you can see, it does a lot of damage just by switching weapons. So yeah. Sheesh. That one was a long one, guys. We are getting very far now. But I would just like to say one last thing, which is I had a lot of fun with this test server. A lot of fun. I think the devs have thought about this. They might make a lot of mistakes, but ultimately I think this is a good direction and a fresh start for Naraka. If you have any differing opinions, as long as you're respectful, please put them in the comments. I always want to learn from people. And yeah, just subscribe, man. It's not that hard. Just like and subscribe. Love you. See ya.